I thought I'd read you a little of The Winds of Winter. Just a little. I don't have time to do a whole chapter here, but I'll read you the beginning of a chapter.
I just heard somebody say, I want to hear it, but I don't want to hear it.
Toward the end of last year, George R. R. Martin made a comment during an interview with The Hollywood Reporter that many took to mean that he was finally admitting that he might not finish The Winds of Winter. Let's look at the excerpt in its entirety. Martin said, "Unfortunately, I am 13 years late. Every time I say that, I'm like, how could I be 13 years late? I don't know. It happens a day at a time. But that's still a priority. A lot of people are already writing obituaries for me. They're saying, oh, he'll never be finished. Maybe they're right. I don't know. I'm alive right now. I seem pretty vital." To me, this is more of a throwaway line by George. It's him recognizing his critics in a way, but it's not a full-throated declaration that he feels he won't complete Winds. Still, I think it's significant since he's at least recognizing it slightly, which is something I haven't really seen him do before. And I believe that's one reason why some people are jumping all over it. And while I don't think it's a sign he's publicly raising the white flag yet, just hearing it annoyed me a bit and put these past years in a different light. It also highlights something that has been the worst part of these now over 13 years since the last book. It's the lack of transparency about the progress of Winds. I mean, how could a book be so close to being done time and time again? I guess one silver lining is that at least Martin has stopped issuing completion deadlines which go unmet. That stopped a little over 4 years ago. An even bigger problem than a wait that has run well over a decade is that Martin has given us so much false hope over the years. Winds of Winter is the biggest bait and switch in literary history. The last of those promised completion dates came when George claimed that he would finish Winds in 2020. Remember this blog post? But I tell you this, if I don't have the Winds of Winter in hand when I arrive in New Zealand for Worldcon, you have my formal written permission to imprison me in a small cabin on White Island, overlooking that lake of sulfuric acid until I'm done. The thing is that I don't think imprisonment would have worked. Martin would have, just as he's been doing, worked on other projects like the various HBO spin-offs and Dark Winds on AMC, along with other interests. And I know, every time I discuss Martin, someone will mention in the comments that he's in his 70s and has a right to live the rest of his life the way he wants, and I completely agree with that, but the flip side is we're all fans of this incredible world George has created. We've bought and read the books, and we want an ending. It's Martin's prerogative not to finish and do whatever he wants, but it doesn't mean we should then be happy that we don't see the conclusion to what could have been one of the most epic fantasy series of all time. Let's look at it another way. You sit down and watch the World Series last year between the Dodgers and the Yankees, and with the game on the line in the bottom of the 10th, this happens.
All right, bottom of the 10th, bases loaded, World Series, one-run game, Dodgers-Yankees. Reality for Freddie Freeman right here. Taylor the tying run, Edman the winning run.
Then you find out that the Dodgers and the Yankees are working on other projects, but finishing the game is still a top priority. The biggest problem, too, for Martin's legacy is that he's focusing on inferior projects while the work that will define his career sits unfinished and slipping away. He consulted on season 1 of House of the Dragon, thought Ryan Condal would be faithful to the lore, and then watched angrily as his Dance of the Dragon story was bastardized by Condal and the writers in season 2. He's been working on the scripts for season 1 of The Night of the Seven Kingdoms, and while I'm optimistic about this one since he's so closely involved, do we know his commitment will extend to the final 2 seasons of the show? Because don't forget, The Night of the Seven Kingdoms is an unfinished work too, and I have no confidence in him handing the rest of that project off to anyone else after what we've seen happen with Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon. I enjoy the world Martin created. It's why it's been my only real focus on this channel. But as we move now into 2025, I have to admit that my skepticism is bending towards some cynicism. The mess that House of the Dragon became was a big contributor to this. But when you look at something like Winds of Winter, which is expected to be a huge 1,500 pages, well, why after 13 plus years can't we at least have a part 1 of the book? I'm sure the publisher would be all for that. So when you couple that with Martin at least acknowledging the possibility that his critics are right that he won't finish Winds, what sort of state is the novel in now? He's claimed to have done many rewrites of old material, so it's anyone's guess. George R. R. Martin is now on track to being remembered as the guy who never finished his epic series and as a man that created a world that saw numerous mediocre to bad projects based on that world make it to screen. For true immortality, though, the only thing he can do is finish.
Cortez delivers. Freeman hits the ball to right field. She is gone!
If you enjoyed this one, make sure to hit the like button. If you're interested in more on House of the Dragon and A Song of Ice and Fire, listen to Caraxes and subscribe. I want to thank everyone for watching, and I'll see you soon.